If you're struggling with crown mold corners, not anymore. We're going to show you how to make them flawless. This is a typical piece of crown mold. Now there are lots of different kinds of crown mold, but crown mold goes up against the ceiling or on top of a cabinet. We're going to show you how to make corners for cabinets or furniture. This is what they call a colonial crown or traditional crown. The first thing you've got to do is get it cut correctly. The jig that we make to hold our wood in place is 2 4-inch pieces of scrap plywood, our molding set in place, and a stop. And what we do is make sure that our molding is held in place exactly where it's supposed to be, and nail our stop in place just like that. That way it holds our molding firm for the cut we make on our miter saw. I attach it to my miter station with just a screw down into my bench like that on either side, and I'm ready to work. With my jig in place and my table able to turn back and forth, I'm now ready to start making my cuts. First 45 cut, and I'm going to make a preliminary cut just to show me where my saw fits. Just like that. I'll make one go in the other direction also. When you cut crown molding, you make sure that it's upside down. This is the bottom of our molding, and you always cut your crown molding upside down. We'll line it up with our cuts so that we know that we're doing a good job. Let's go ahead and make a cut. There's our first cut. With our miter cut correctly made, now comes putting it together. So making the cut is only the first half. Putting it together, that's the important part. We're going to take this exact jig that we did our cuts on, and I'm going to show you how to make a new jig out of this that will help us nail our corner together perfectly. You watched me cut a 45-degree end after I had cut my jig in half. We're now nailing those two 45 degrees together. And this is going to make our nailing jig. We're going to set our molding right back in just like we did when we made our cuts. And you can see how our jig now holds our molding together to make a perfect corner for nailing. Let's put some glue and nail it. We'll be able to putty and sand and clean up this corner, and we now have a perfect corner. Cut perfect, nailed together perfect. Okay, you've seen how we've done a perfect outside corner. Now let's tackle an inside corner. It's harder. This is an inside corner on a crown mold, and you can see it is a little more difficult, and it's much harder to hold on to and nail, and it has to be nailed from the back side. Here is the jig that I made. Now I'm going to talk about how I made this jig, because this jig is a little more complicated. I started off with the same tray that I made to cut my molding, same way that I did on my other ones. So here is the exact tray that we made to cut our molding. This is how our molding sat in it, just like that, and we made our cuts on our miter saw. I mitered it together and nailed it together. I cut it off so that we can get to the corner, and I nailed some bracing on the bottom and the top to hold it square. Now let's show you the molding that we cut. And while we had our tray on the saw, we cut our inside corner pieces. Let me turn it around. Now let me tip it up like this so you can see it come together. There's our two corners. as they come together, just like that. Now I'm just pushing them together. They're not in the right place yet, but that's how that comes together. And we have to nail them from the back side. And that's why I made this jig open on the back side so that we could get to our corner with our nail gun. We'll glue and nail this together just like that. But you can see how our tray holds our pieces in place and holds them good and tight while we nail our corner together. And that's what allows you to make the proper corner, because you can't hang on to that corner and make the nail all at the same time. It's just too hard. So let's go ahead and put this corner together. A little glue first. We don't want too much because we don't want any squeeze out on the inside corner. That's too hard to clean. So we just use a little bit of glue and make sure that we keep it out of the corner. Slide our corner together so that it's good and tight, just like that. And then, like I say, nail from the back side. Whoop. I need one extra pair of hands here. Wouldn't it be nice to be an octopus? Let's put a nail from this side. And then we'll just put those two nails in right there to hold it in place while we show. There's our inside corner. Okay, we've got our nails from the back, but just to show you that I still know how to make mistakes, I had a nail come through the front. Now we can take this nail out of here and putty and sand. It'll be just fine, but I don't want anyone to think that I don't know how to make mistakes. I'm good at it. I've done it before. And there you go. Inside, outside corners on Woodworking with Wes.